Hey everyone, welcome back to the Riverdale recap on the channel. I'm Matthew, of course, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend.
Callum.
Now, it's the 13th episode of season 5 of Riverdale, and if you haven't been following our channel recently, we've been doing every episode of season 5 up until this point, and of course, we're back with the latest one. So yeah, I'll pass over to Callum to explain what's been going on in today's episode of our favorite TV show. So yeah, off to you, mate.
Yeah, this is Monday, so forgive me if I if I forget some stuff. So this is quite a Betty central episode. You know, she's obviously looking into the trucker the trucker situation. You know, she's looking to find Polly's captor slash murderer. We're not too sure about her fate just yet. So she's sort of putting herself on the line. She's roping in some friends to help her take down the truckers. Simultaneously, Archie gets a new dog and finds out that it's a part of it was formerly part of a dog fighting ring. And we sort of, you know, we get to see the deep dark past of Archie over the past 7 years. And it's some brutal stuff and some well done stuff. You know, I'd say this is one of the most mature episodes of Riverdale. And you know, I think it's some of the best handling of some tougher stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I was kind of saying to you off camera, like I'm glad that they don't disregard what's happened to each character in the last 5 or 7 years, however long it was. You know, they still make reference to Archie in the military, and it's something that's clearly plaguing the character throughout the season. Obviously, I think his pal Eric is living with him as well as Uncle Frank, so they've kind of got the military expertise and stuff there. So all the military stuff with Archie is really good. It's really well shot, and it looks so visceral. You know what I mean? Like it's so uncharacteristically Riverdale that it kind of takes you off guard for a bit, especially with the aspect ratio
Yeah.
change. But I really enjoy that stuff. It was really good.
Yeah, it was the aspect ratio shift was odd, but you know I can't deny that that their obvious intention was to make those war scenes very cinematic, and I mean they did that perfectly. I think the scenes looked incredible.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, mate. I absolutely agree. And there is kind of a, you mentioned the dog there. It's kind of
Oh
they kind
God.
of pull a fast one and sort of make it really blunt and say, yeah, it's Vegas, the old dog from the show, has died off screen, which is tragic because that was one of the one of the nice elements of the show. It's what really, it's one of the more human elements of Archie's character and stuff. So it's sad to see. But yeah, like you said, he kind of has a new dog in this episode, doesn't he? And kind of elaborates with the dog fighting. I wonder if they're going to connect that to anything, or do you think that's just going to be a one and done, just this episode only thing?
I mean, I feel like it is in the tradition of Riverdale to just do a storyline to fill time and move on. But, you know,
Yeah.
I think the PTSD that Archie's clearly encountering with the death of Bingo, is going to be sort of occur, on it's going to be ongoing. Oh, that was the word I was going for. Uh,
Yeah.
I went to combine occurring and ongoing with oncurring, which I think should be a word.
It
You
should be a
know,
word.
in my humble opinion. But I think if you're a real dog lover, this must be a real tough episode to watch because I think
Yeah.
that there's a lot of people who uh who can deal with human death because that's like a reality they're comfortable with. But that there's websites called like does the dog die, where you like type in a movie that has a dog in it, to kind of emotionally prepare yourself as to whether you actually want to be comfortable watching it or not. I think this episode would be a tough watch for a lot of people because I
Heartbreaking.
mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of violence against dogs. I mean, obviously not perpetrated by the show itself, but the discussion of
Alluded to.
and
Yeah,
the
certainly.
the condemnation of. I think there's a lot of upsetting stuff in this episode. I think for someone who's kind of going in to watch Riverdale for being the kind of like jolly
Yeah.
cringe fest that it normally is. I think this episode is one with the toughest of themes.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It is probably one of the more darker episodes of the season, if not the darkest. And it's coincidentally, doesn't feature Jughead. So, usually I don't know if he kind of does bring a certain levity to the show. Obviously, with the narration, it kind of adds to the maybe like the goofy quality of it, I guess, or maybe the fact that the fact that he's not in it. It does take away something. It was noticeable that he wasn't there. What did you think about that?
I mean, he's not a character that I like. but I do think he's been providing some of the most interesting stuff. I mean, we're still waiting to hear back about the Mothman. We haven't really heard anything about them for 3 or 4 episodes, at least since the mid-season finale. So I mean, I'm quite curious to see more of that, or to see whether that's just another abandoned plot line. And I
Yeah.
mean, it just seems like Riverdale's never going to go in the fantastical approach that probably would suit it. Because there's obviously connections with the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, with their kind of tied continuity in the comics. So I mean, bringing in the supernatural or aliens would be fitting. I think. I just don't know how they would handle it. Uh, I feel like it's just going to be another Gargoyle King situation where it's
Yeah.
just another
Yeah.
human character in a mask, like an episode of Scooby Doo. Like, I mean, that's got to be what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, I think so, man. I think so. I think the trucker stuff must be connected to some degree. And an
Mm.
ongoing theme of season 5 as well is bringing back kind of recurring, or recurring cast members from previous seasons. I'd mentioned to you that in a couple episodes time we're going to be seeing the return of the Pussycats as well, which is interesting. They were kind of somewhat main characters in season 1, I would say. Certainly Josie was anyway. So, and it was nice to see Moose back as well. He's kind of sporting a Tarzan look to him. He's kind of got the beard, the long hair. So it was nice to see him back as well. And yeah, like I do like that, because it kind of makes you really feel that there is a universe built here. This town feels real to a degree, despite all the silly stuff that goes on with gargoyle kings and serial killers and Mothman aliens. Like the fact that they have recurring cast members who are played for the most part by the same actors years ago. It's nice. It's refreshing. It builds a world, and it adds to that kind of soap opera quality to it, which I find quite charming for the show, to be honest.
Yeah, when you asked me, did I miss Jughead? I remember when I was watching the episode, I was just thinking, okay, I mean, Jughead isn't in this. I don't really like him anyway. Come to think of it, I don't really like Betty. Archie's a bit boring. Veronica's a bit of a daddy's girl to her insane criminal father. And I was just like, oh God, I don't like anyone in this cast. And then I was like,
Yeah,
I like Tabitha and I like Hiram Lodge. So I mean, like, can we figure something out with the two of them to
with
make a
the
show? Because
yes.
everyone else for me could go.
I absolutely agree. Tabitha, Hiram, and Pop, they can all stay. Maybe Reggie
Mm,
as well. I have a soft spot for Reggie, as we all know. But yeah, Ben, everyone else, all like definitely. Hiram's definitely the
yeah.
best of the show for me, 1,000,000%.
I mean, I think this episode with the Archie stuff has been one of the highlights of the season. I think coupled with the episode that we saw last week, Citizen Lodge. I thought that was really interesting episode. As we said in our review, pretty standard gangster fare. Kind of like an attempt to do a kind of Goodfellas style episode. But it was still better than what we're getting for the most part, or for what we've had for the last 5 years. So I mean, I just do think this episode did once again make the mistake with the war scenes of kind of highlighting a better show that we're not getting.
Yeah, Callum, definitely. I'm really curious to see when they're gonna kind of up the stakes in the show, or really get the plot line going, because the season concludes in 6 episodes, and you kind of think it feels like this is really early days still in the season. So it kind of feels like the tempo is really not there when you're getting past the midpoint for me. Like it's getting to the stage now where, like, then if they don't introduce a major plot point in the next episode, or a big reveal, it's getting a bit rushed. The ending could feel a bit rushed, like all a little bit crammed in, unless you've got like an hour long episode or something. But what do you think about that? Do you think they're leaving it a little bit too late, or do you think they're pacing it okay?
Yeah, the season I think is 18 episodes.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, to my knowledge. So
18 or
there's
19 or
yeah,
something. Yeah,
yeah, five or so episodes left. We need to wrap up the trucker storyline, the Mothman storyline, which I mean, knowing Riverdale is gonna converge and be the same thing. It's gonna be some ridiculous reason, in the same way they tied Hiram to the Gargoyle King in season 3. So I feel like they're gonna be connected, and then you know I mean, there doesn't really need to be resolution for anything related to Archie, because PTSD is an ongoing struggle. So I mean, there's probably no settling of that storyline. So I mean, that doesn't really need to come together by the end of the season. Veronica is kind of just existing in the show. She doesn't really have a. I mean, maybe they might introduce a clearer directive for her character, to accomplish by the end of the season. But right now, it's kind of just her trying to make her business work. I suppose her, formalizing her divorce with Chad could maybe be something that we see near the end of the season. But right now, I don't really think she has like a, something that needs real resolution, and that's probably concerning.
Yeah, I think there's a number of kind of plot points for me as well that might need to tie up loose ends. Chad is a big one for me because I think he
Yeah.
must have something to do with the Mothman storyline, to be honest. There's some
Mm.
kind of revenge scheme, I'd imagine. Either that or there's a weird sort of religious cult aspect going on with the Blossoms and stuff. It kind of feels very similar to the farm or something, you know. So I'm not
Yeah.
too sure what's going on there.
So there's the Palladium as well.
Yeah, I think I really do think season 5 is going to be one of those crossover seasons where it does spill into season 6 inevitably, like with the whole So deal stuff and that
Mm.
whole element, because it feels like, you know, it is going to be like a part 1 part 2 situation or something, with season 6 being like the final conclusion of a lot of these arcs, because I don't feel like the show's tempo or pacing is at the level yet where it can conclude all of these really nicely in 5 episodes. I just don't see that working very well. I could be wrong because season 5 is really good, but
Mm.
I don't see it coming to everything coming to a nice ending by the end, to be honest, man. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I think it's rare in a show where you have a really great first season that's able to balance 13 episodes with a really great sensible storyline.
yeah.
We were talking about this a few days ago, where it just feels like Riverdale season 1 and Riverdale season 5 is night and day. Like if you
Oh
went
yeah,
back to season 1, you'd be absolutely baffled. Uh, and I
you
mean
would.
it's undoubtedly better than I think the first season is probably my favorite, and then the fifth season is probably my second favorite. But I
I'm the
mean,
same. I agree.
like two, 3, and 4 are absolute messes. Uh, so the first managed to tell this incredible storyline. I think in third, well, not incredible, but
I agree. Yeah.
good storyline in
Yeah.
13 episodes. And, this season had 15 episodes. After the 7-year time jump. So it can't exactly use the excuse of we didn't have enough time to develop every storyline we had. It's like, well, then just have less storylines and make them better. The first season was the death of Jason Blossom, and now they think they can't keep audiences in if they don't have 5 concurrent storylines with a whole mess of characters. It's like, I mean, you just need one good storyline, and then
Yeah.
for the kind of tributaries of smaller storylines converging into that one. How
Definitely.
FP was inadvertently a part of Jason Blossom's death, and that tied into Jughead's storyline for the season. Like that worked very well. And I'd just like to see more of that. Rather than them just going off on these tangents with these characters that go nowhere.
Yeah, well, I absolutely agree with you, but I think they maybe try to bite off more than they can chew a lot of the time. Like for me, I think it's season 1, season 5, and maybe parts of season 2 are just like really good Riverdale, and then the rest is just not for me really. I still really enjoy every season, like to a degree. Like I don't think all of them are good, but I still enjoy them. Otherwise, I just wouldn't watch anymore. So, there's still a level of enjoyment there. But I think season 1 and season 5 are really the outstanding ones so far. But yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say in this episode. Callum, anything from yourself?
Just a few comments. I think it is rare in television where you have such a downward spiral in quality. Like, normally it takes a season or two for a show to find its feet, like the American version of The Office. But then it just seems with the CW, most of their shows start great with the first season and then just massively drop off. A lot of seasons have sort of a poorly received last season, because the creators kind of don't know how to wrap things up, like How I Met Your Mother or That 70s Show. But this show just went great first season, immediately terrible. I've just never seen that before. The
Yeah,
Flash right now, has been, it's been bad for like, seasons 5, 6, and 7. But it started strong, and there wasn't an immediate drop off. But this was immediate, and I've never seen that before, really.
yeah, like I'd have to from the CW shows I've watched, and I admit it's not a lot, but from the Flash, Arrow, and certainly Riverdale, like it seems like they start off really good, reasonably realistic, where you sort of sound like, okay, it's not necessarily crazy, but then like every season after that, it's like, okay, what can we do that will blow people's minds? Flash, okay, time travel, all these kind of things. Arrow got a little bit Our got very crazy in moments as well. Comparatively to season one, I know you watched a lot more than I did. And certainly that's the same with Riverdale. Like with the Jason Blossom mystery, I kind of seen like one really main plot line that ties in everyone really well, and not necessarily these really convoluted stories about aliens or this religious cult or this demon or this sort of high school conspiracy group or those kind of things. You know what I mean? It feels very different. Like I've never seen the show 13 Reasons Why, but I'd imagine season one of Riverdale is quite similar to that, or that show is what Riverdale would be like if every season was like season one, those kind of things. So I think season five is really promising so far. I would just love them to have a final season where it is just classic Riverdale season one, just a one sort of mystery or something like that, But that's how I feel about it anyway.
I mean, do you think we would be disappointed if it was just objectively good? I think that there'd be a bit less. I think we wouldn't review it as much. I think some of the intrigue would be gone, but I mean, we'd watch it because it's good.
Certainly, yeah.
I think you either watch a show because it's entertaining or because it's good. And right now it's entertaining. I mean,
Yeah.
is it? I'm struggling here because I mean it has good elements, terrible elements, but less cringe than normal. So I mean I don't know that it is entertaining anymore. This episode I was just like, Betty, you're simultaneously so confident and so stupid, and I just I was kind of warming to Betty after the time jump, and then in the last 2 episodes she's just been a nightmare again. She's kind of
Yeah.
the moment where she just sat back and played Jughead's voicemail as though he was being unreasonable. I mean, when the worst thing, he did to her was call her a bitch after she cheated on him. I'm like, oh yeah, what a dickhead. And she was just sat there like, yeah, I'm about to ruin this man's career. It seemed like
Yeah.
she was really confident about the fact that she was like exposing Jughead there, and I think everybody watching was just like, pretty fair response. I mean, he probably waited too long to say that. He was pretty instantly forgiving. Weirdly, after the cheating was revealed, he kind of went like, I mean, we're broken up, but it's okay. So I mean, he just had a delayed reaction to it, but an appropriate reaction.
That certainly seems the case, doesn't it? I can't really tell where the show wants to go at the minute, because I would love to see more of this sort of, archaic version of the town where, criminals are everywhere and stuff. Like that's how it was presented in like the very first episode of the Time Jump, where like, they can't even save the high school, never mind, the rest of the town. So it kind of seems like since they got back, it just is normal Riverdale again. But that being said, I think season five has been really good so far. This episode was a weird one in the sense that maybe because we've just off the back of a really good sort of flashbacks episode with Hiram, it's hard to compare something that was probably the best episode of Riverdale ever, last episode, to this one. So obviously there's going to be a natural downgrade there, but I don't know. I think we'll look back at season five and think it wasn't that good. I think in the end, just because we're kind of used to nonsense from the previous seasons. But I could be wrong. I'm liking it at the minute, but I'm sorry to say that I probably will feel differently in a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, even looking back at the Citizen Lodge episode, I'm thinking absolutely the best of the season. But then I'm thinking season one was real good. Even talking about it, I think I'm gonna go and watch season one after we're off this call. Because I mean, it is really strong, and I really do like it. I think the PTSD storyline that we're seeing take shape right now with Archie is probably his best storyline since season one. They have tried to go crazier and crazier as you've said. With him going to prison as like a 16-year-old.
I like that stuff actually. I quite enjoyed that.
I'm not a fan, but
I know what you
that
mean,
is a situation of them just trying to constantly one up themselves. But season one and season five, I've dealt with I've dealt with some serious dark topics where it's actually it's serious stuff instead of just talking about stupid stuff really earnestly.
Yeah.
It's some stuff where he's a real a victim or a survivor, and it's like it's some brutal stuff. But I mean, I think that's where KJ Apa gets to do his best acting.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think
not like when he's like, let me coach a prison football team. It's just or whenever he wanted
Yeah.
to be like a boxer, and then he fought KO Kelly, and I
Yeah, I remember
from
that. Yeah.
memory got his ass handed to him.
Yeah. Was that this season? Or when was that? That was this. That
Um,
was early days
yeah,
this season, I think.
I think that was the first episode of season 5.
Yeah. Wow, that feels like a lifetime ago. Um, yeah, no, I'd have to agree. I would have to agree.
Yeah,
Like Archie's been through a whirlwind of plot points, hasn't he? Like I think they've really got one here where there's real potential there. But the
what
other,
happened to his music career?
yeah, I know. Maybe that's why they're bringing back the Pussycats. They're gonna revive his career. I'm not too sure. Um, I, one thing I would say about Archie and the other characters, it kind of seems like they ran out of ideas for a lot of the other ones. Veronica, and Betty kind of included. I think with Jughead, with him being the kind of the focal point of the show, arguably with Archie, there's a lot of plot points there with him, being a writer. Like it seems like that's going to be a big narrative for the next episode. But with the other two, I don't know. I think they're really struggling with Veronica, especially. She's been coasting for a
Yeah.
few seasons now, where I think you're probably the best out of the four, but you've just been handed the weakest plot points. So I kind of feel
Yeah.
bad for Camila Mendez.
It is just whenever they're trying to fill time, whenever they're trying to give Camila Mendes screen time, they're just like, give her a new business. We
Pretty
don't know.
much, pretty much.
Stockbroker, who cares?
Yeah,
it is. I think she's had about
definitely.
5 different businesses over the duration of the seasons. Running multiple ones at the same time at like age of 18, while still getting a GPA to get into Harvard. Don't know how don't know how she pulled that off. I mean, I don't know how Betty apparently pulled off getting good grades, despite being like, an amateur detective, committing several crimes, I
Yeah,
assume,
I
in
know.
in the the perversion of justice, which we see once again in this episode. I really would have appreciated if the catch up of the first half of the season that we got at the mid season premiere. I wish it had shown a bit of Betty stuff, because a lot of things that were referenced having happened completely forgot about. Anything to do with Charles or Glenn completely exited my memory. I had no idea.
Agreed. I
So
forgot
I
about
kind of had
Charles
to,
actually.
yeah, I had to Google it because I had no clue what they were talking about. And this is some monumental stupidity from Betty in this episode. It ends with her and Tabitha, catching who they think is I mean, to be fair, he came at her with a chainsaw, so I'd say he's a solid suspect. I'd say if he didn't, if he wasn't involved in previous murders, still lock him up.
Yeah.
But Betty seems somehow confident that she's much more likely to get this guy to tell her where Polly is rather than the FBI. I'm not sure she has the interrogation skills that she imagines herself to have.
A lot of these characters, when you look at their past acts, they really have a lot of skeletons in their closet. Betty, especially, like Betty has probably done a lot of illegal stuff. Darren knows what Veronica's done with all those shady businesses and stuff, and Archie, Archie's kind of like a vigilante in the streets. It appears, he's beat a lot of people up. Um, but yeah, did you want to hop into upper rating for this episode, bro, or did you have other
I
comments?
just quickly wanted to talk about Kevin because he sort of
Yes,
has
Kevin, he's a big
he
big
has
arc
the
here.
kind of third plot line for the thing. I'm not going to mention too much. He's not a huge presence in the episode, but as you mentioned, we find out that Moose and Fangs are together. Which I mean, Kevin seems to have he seems to have a reaction that I think is a bit unreasonable, at least initially. He seems a bit more cooled down by the start of the episode. And I mean, I understand that you will be hurt by that, but I mean, Cheryl was saying to him like, "Oh, you didn't do anything wrong. It's Fangs and it's Fangs and Moose that are doing the wrong thing." I'm like, I mean, he did do stuff wrong, and then he broke up with Fangs. So I mean, not really his place to say anything.
Yeah, Kevin's a funny one, Callum, because I can't really tell whether the showrunners want him to be a main character, because it kind of felt like at points during season 4 and certainly season 5 that they kind of wanted to include him and Tony in this group. Tony was like a
Yeah,
big player at the start of season 5, wasn't she? Like she was. You kind of forget about her. But Kevin's a funny one. He's obviously one of the OGs. I think he's been there since the
mm,
first episode of the show. So
Yeah.
they've kept them
Talking
around
about
clearly.
Archie's abs.
Yeah, Archie's, yeah, right. And speaking of Archie's abs, there's been a distinct lack of shirtless Archie scenes. I'm not sure whether, I'm not sure whether he's feels embarrassed about filming. I don't know why. I wouldn't feel embarrassed if I had a KKJ outfit, but I've noticed a distinct lack of them.
Yeah,
Maybe because the show's just
yeah,
moved on in the time jump. I don't know.
yeah. You might just want to do some more serious stuff. And I suppose I mean, it only makes sense narratively, I guess. Whenever he's having a sex scene or whatever, and him and Veronica are on a bit of a pause. I
Yeah.
was seeing I was seeing a lot of chemistry in this episode between Veronica and Reggie, who of course had a former relationship, and I'm not sure whether it's just the actors, because they had previously dated and are rumored to be back together. So I'm not sure whether that's just popping off screen, but
But I
you
saw
know
I saw that
I'm
too.
I saw a lot more chemistry with them than I do with Archie. And I mean, I've never seen any chemistry between Veronica and Archie personally. Uh, but where do you see that going narratively? Do you see them maybe making a turn to Reggie?
See, the introduction of the Pussycats back in the show was really interesting because it seems like such a weird point in the show to bring them back, in my opinion.
Mm,
So I'm kind of thinking they might do a Ronnie gets with Reggie and then Archie gets with one of the Pussycats. I think that's where they're gonna go. It seems like a weird.
yeah.
Would you think? Do you think it's a weird time to bring them back on the show so late on into a season?
Well, I said to you, with the cancellation of Katie Kane, they're kind of trying to fold elements back into this show from that show.
Yeah,
Josie had gone on and she was one of the main characters of that show, so I think they're trying to pull her back. They've had K.O. Kelly, who's Katie Kane's boyfriend, pop up. They had a fireman character who was the boyfriend of Jorge from Katie Kane. They had him back 5 or 6 episodes ago doing when when Archie was trying to establish the fire department back in Riverdale. They
yeah,
had a character from Katie Keene come over to sort of get
yes,
them in shape.
yeah,
So I think it's just another attempt to kind of bring Josie back into the fold organically, because that show got cancelled. But yeah, I don't think it's going to come across organically. And I mean, if we're talking about chemistry, him and Josie somehow had less than him and Veronica.
yeah. I'm because it's so interesting, buddy, because I'm just looking here at season five and just having a look at the viewing figures and stuff, and like in America, like the first episode of season five is getting about 600,000 live
Oh, that's not good.
viewers. I guess though with streaming services you probably could get that above 1 million and stuff, but 600,000 is not great when you compare to season one and so let's say season two, because that was probably the peak when the hype of season one. So season two first episode, any guesses for millions there? It's quite a lot.
I'm gonna say 4 million.
It's 2.3 in the States,
Okay.
which is, but when you compare that, like the show has downgraded a lot from that, hasn't it? Really?
Yeah.
Um, I can't see it getting a past season six, mate, unfortunately, looking at the viewing figures here, but I could be wrong. I could be very wrong.
Yeah, I hope they just see the writing on the wall and end it appropriately so it doesn't have to get cancelled and then, end without any resolution.
Yeah, yeah. So it'll be interesting. It's a looking here. I think it says 19 episodes. That might be a mistake, but yeah, 19 episode season. With
Oh, that's probably right.
yeah. So the Pussycat episodes is episode 15. So that'll be a good one. Um, but yeah, bro. Any more comments then from yourself?
Quickly with Kevin, we see him by the end of the episode, he's sort of joined the Blossom Church. He's singing with them. God, I really hope this isn't the soft introduction to like semi-musical episodes.
Oh god, that's
Because
what they're doing now, isn't it?
I
Fuck.
can't be dealing with that.
No, I can't either.
I mean, you've have you watched any of the purely musical
Oh man,
episodes?
I
I know
skip them. I skip them and let you inform me of what
I
happens.
don't blame you. Like the audio. I mean, I think Camilla Mendes, fantastic singer.
Yeah,
Uh,
she's very good. Yeah.
Casey Cott, I think fantastic singer.
I think
And
Is
then
it Madeline Pesh her name is, or
yeah,
yes, I think she's okay. I think she's pretty good.
yeah. I think when she's given the right song, it's very much the context of what they're doing rather than the voices themselves. It's the wrong songs, weird context. Whenever they sang Cherry Bomb and it was like a weird sexual performance at their high school, like it's just the context makes it a bit uncomfortable. rather than the singing voices themselves. So I think they just need to plan it out better, and
Definitely, yeah.
have it come across a bit more organically. And I've already said to you, like I hate musical episodes where it doesn't make sense in the context of the universe. They're just,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
they're singing their dialogue as though that's a normal thing that's happening. They're not acknowledging it. The episode will be about them doing like a school musical or something, but then the music extends to like when they're waking up in the morning, or them in class. That's obviously not a function of the universe, and they never explain it.
Yeah. Narratively, it doesn't make as much sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan there, but before that happens, we see that Kevin gets an award for Teacher of the Year. Where? Just Riverdale? Because if it's just Riverdale, I'd love to understand how something that's not even considered a town is giving out a Teacher of the Year award. And if it's beyond Riverdale, how is he winning that award?
I absolutely love in this town that is like it's been described as chaotic. It's like anarchy on the streets, but they still
Yeah,
have
a
time to give a
hellmouth.
Teacher of the Year award. That's how good he is, Callum. That's how good Mr. Keller is at his job.
Yeah,
Excellent.
from the context, it seems to be like, statewide or something, like he's being considered like the best teacher in the state. And
Wow.
just I'm baffled by that. I mean, like who's putting those votes in? That's my wonder. They have about 15 students in the school.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know who's put him up for that, and I don't know who came to watch him. Give a class. And if they did, I don't know why he would be interested, because I mean
Completely.
he gets that award and he's just like, it's just a reminder of my failures in life, and I'm like, I mean, okay. I mean, you think the better option is just singing in a church of like 12 people, which is clearly just, you going back to another cult.
Yeah, I know. I know. It's fantastic. It's fantastic, isn't it? So yeah, man, what would you give this episode out of 10 then?
I really like the war side of it with Archie. I think them approaching a PTSD storyline is something fresh for the show, not fresh for storytelling, but fresh for the show. So something that's hopefully going to give KJ Appa, a chance to give a stronger performance. Or I would never criticize his quality of acting. We said with Songbird that he had, movie star potential, I think. So I think he always gives a strong performance, but he's not given he's not exactly given a breadth of storytelling quality. So if we see more of that, I'm really curious. Betty, it's just a hot mess. She's back to being, season 4 nightmare Betty. Where she makes me want to like claw my eyes out whenever I'm watching the show. I just want, I want Betty back from like the first 3 episodes of the time jump. Where she was dealing with trauma related to her kidnapping, and she was this this FBI agent, rather than now her just being once again on the wrong side of the law. Just, I mean, stalking people. She stalked what turned out to be an FBI agent, who then tried to arrest her for solicitation of paid sex. So I mean, she's just a stalker now. And then she did the breaking and entering of all the trucks, and then she impersonated an FBI agent. Like she's just a mess. Just be done with her. I mean, I would say
Hello.
most of the actors, on the show are at the point of like Jacob Elordi and the Kissing Booth
It's getting to that stage,
franchise.
isn't it? It's getting
Where
to that stage.
they, I imagine they think they're above Riverdale, and I mean, I can't blame them. Most people would be.
I think it's only a matter of time before KJ App or someone like that says, I'm away to do another project or something, another TV show. It's that, and at
Yeah.
that stage, that's where the show I think will end, to be honest, Colin.
Yeah, because I mean, Camila Mendes, we're seeing her in some mainstream films. She was in Palm Springs. She's done a few Netflix projects, and she's a great actress. Lily Reinhart, I don't think I've seen her in anything else, and I mean, I strongly believe that she is better than this. I think she's just been dealt a very shitty hand. She seems very likable in interviews. It's just that Betty is an absolute mess. I suppose the issue is that they're presenting her as a good likable character, but the writing completely undercuts that. It'd be great if she was playing an intentionally unlikable character, but it's just that she's meant to be likable, but the writing betrays her. So I mean, I struggle with episodes these days that are very Betty focused. So it wasn't my favorite. The war scenes really pulled it up. I think the dogfighting ring. Whenever you told me about that storyline, because I watched this, I think a day or two after it came out, I was like, oh god, because every episode it just seems like with Archie, it's just he's just problem solving in the town. It's like what do we have him do? He starts a fire department. Then next week, he's the savior of the dogs.
Yes.
Next week, like you're kind of like, well, what's he gonna do next? And it seems like there's no foundation or certainty with his character. It's just solving another problem,
Exactly.
and it's kind of
Yeah.
just a repeated situation where he somehow makes things better despite an indescribable lack of personality or ability. So somehow he's just able to wrangle together a whole team to be
I
like
know.
the sheriff's department and the fire department. And I mean, you know, because they're no longer technically a town, or it's not even really like a place anymore. It's just a patch of land that's meant to be knocked down, but is somehow still surviving. I mean, it seems pretty lawless there. I mean, I don't know how it's legal whatsoever for him to just make himself the fire chief, or just like go
Yeah.
down with Sheriff Keller to like beat the shit out of some criminals. I don't know how that's quite legal. But this episode, Archie was a real strength of it. Betty was a real weakness of it. 7, a generous 7, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a slight problem with Archie's character this season in the sense that they don't quite know what to do with him. He is kind of the problem solver of the time, as you said. Fired first. It was the teacher. First it was the school. Then it was the fire department. Then it was like sort of helping his buddy Eric sort of recovering and setting him up okay. And then obviously, of course, he had to deal with Veronica and her divorce, and now it's the dog stuff. So it is kind of
I mean,
all over the
it's
place.
helped with his likability, but
Yeah,
it's just
certainly. And yeah,
there's no continuity.
yeah, I've liked him more now than I have probably since season 2 or 3, I would say. I'd probably say you're the same, to be honest. Yeah, like it's a difficult one because I definitely think this is probably the weakest episode in a while. But that being said, the war stuff is great. There's a good sort of wee musical number at the end, and I'm curious. I'm
I don't
quietly
think you believe that.
moving on. I'll be generous. It was okay. And yeah, I'm quietly curious about what they're going to do with the Blossoms. Like the whole sort of religious cult thing doesn't sit right. There's something a bit off there, I think. So it's interesting to see where they go down that road. So I'd probably cut this off as a 8 out of 10. Certainly a
I
decent
think these
episode
are
by all
very
accounts.
generous
I
scores.
am generous, mate. Season 5 of Riverdale has been decent. Like it's been, and we've talked a lot more than I thought we would about today's episode. I thought it was quite a lackluster episode,
Yeah,
but it's been a good discussion just generally about where season 5's going. I know we
yeah,
kind of did like a similar one about in season 4 about where we thought that was going at the time. So yeah, it's
yeah.
usually at this point of the season where we kind of have these chats, and usually because all the
Mm,
plot lines are at least established, we kind of have an idea. But yeah, I had a good chat.
yeah. I'd say to put into context our scores, we do seem to be saying, 7s and 8s and 8.5s, 9s for this sort of season.
Mhm.
I imagine season 1 we would have been giving out most episodes, 8s, 9s, 10s.
Yes,
Season 2 probably, you know,
nines, eights or
s-
nines tops, like
yeah, I'd say 7, 8, 3, 5 or 6. 4, what 4 was what
we
was
kind of give out like
the
yeah, like five
the
to
first the
sevens,
first
really,
half
wasn't it?
the first half of 4 was the Stonewall prep. What was the back half of season 4?
I think the back half
Oh, it
was
was
like the
the voyeur.
videotapes. The
Yeah, yeah.
videotapes, yeah, that was
My
shite.
God,
That was shite.
the jelly bean reveal. I was just like,
I called it.
fuck
I
you.
called it, man. I
Yeah,
called
yeah. You called it, and I was just that's one of the worst moments of the show. I think like that was a real low
real
point where
low.
I was just like, fuck you. And I don't know whether that was their plan initially. I said to you that might have just been that their abridged plan to like sweep it under the carpet. But either way, that was embarrassing. And then,
Dude.
because I mean, she has committed so many crimes. She's put, so many people. I mean, I think the like creepy tapes where she's acting out fake murders was bad enough. But then she was like watching people's houses, going into them and like videotaping them, and it was just, it was so awful. and then they were like, "Oh, you little scamp," you know. It's just because she's a child, she just completely got away with it, and it was just the most anticlimactic thing that they could have done. You know, it was obviously a subversion, but I mean, I think if you subvert like that, it either needs to be funny or interesting. But you were like, well, by that point, it was obvious, and it's also terrible.
Callum, it wouldn't surprise me if they decide to bring back an aged up jelly bean after the time jump and say she's behind the Mothman stuff. It would not surprise me one bit. I'm just gonna send you a photo here of like the graph of like the summary of the viewing figures of the episode. Hopefully that should be going through to you now.
Yeah.
It kind of tell hopefully if the viewers want to see this, it's on Wikipedia. It's like it's like a graph on like Riverdale's episodes and stuff, and it kind of tells you where the show's at right now. Despite the quality being better, it's not nice to see, is it, man? It's like they're the lowest they've been for a while. The ratings,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it's not a massive surprise, unfortunately, and it is a massive drop off. But I mean, you know, you're obviously not going to watch season one and then go, oh, I'll just pop into season five. You know, you would go, even if it's years later, you'd go, well, I'm gonna go season two, season three, and then by season three, you'd probably give up. Like, I think
Yeah,
the only reason that we still watch the show is because we've been watching it from day one. Is there like, is there a point with any show that you just stop watching it? Because you know, I've sort of I've had people comment like, why, you know, I watch pretty much you know, I finish
you watch a lot of
everything that I
TV.
start,
Yeah,
really. You know,
you
yeah,
watch a lot. Yeah,
I watch a lot of TV, and like, even if I start a show and it's terrible, you know, I just finish it. You know, I've been watching you know, the reboot of iCarly.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not for me, you know. I think it failed to recapture the magic. You know, but it's 13 episodes. I watched it. I'll continue watching it until it's cancelled. You know, which I think is, hmm, I don't know when that's gonna happen, honestly, because I mean, I think it's been pretty well received. You know, but I just think you know, it's
Yeah,
trying to aim at an adult audience. Like, it's completely inappropriate for kids. Like, you could not have your kids watch this reboot of iCarly, but then it's kind of insulting the intelligence of the adults that they know are watching it.
certainly. So I think maybe the only show that really rings a bell for me that I've sort of stopped watching is probably Doctor Who, Doctor Who, Doctor Who. Sort of halfway, but after halfway at the Matt Smith stage.
Mm,
Really, I really like Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant. It's just that a lot of the later Matt Smith storylines I didn't really like.
mm.
But yeah, Riverdale's an interesting one. I'd be really interested to see generally, like, as a TV show progresses, do they have like a revival like halfway through the latter season where the viewers increase and stuff? Like, do you think every TV show is like this, where like, Big Bang Theory started off, usually the second season is the highest ever, and then every season after that's like a slow decline? Is every
Yeah.
TV show like that, do you think? Or do you think there's some TV shows where you can recall a specific season where that got a lot of people on board and really spiked the viewing figures? Because I can't see it happen for Riverdale, man, unfortunately.
No, I mean, yeah, I think it's all about consistent quality, and I mean, you know, I'd say, I'd say it's not going to happen here. You know, because I mean, if you did, you know, watch season one, loved it, watch season two, tolerated it,
Yeah,
and gave up there, if you wouldn't, one of all, you wouldn't come back, you know, at season five, and if you did, you'd probably still want to turn it off. You know, I think the only
yeah,
reason we're watching it is because we're captivated with the context. But you know, I think you'd be absolutely lost if you tried to watch season
definitely.
five without watching, you know, any of the in between. So yeah, I think the viewers that they've lost are gone for good, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame. But yeah, that wraps up quite a lengthy Riverdale discussion. I had a really good chat there. I think that
Yeah.
was a good one. Hope you guys enjoyed, and be sure to comment your thoughts in season 5 for Riverdale down below. We love to read them. Always there to read and respond to you guys. And yeah, hope you guys are all well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care, and bye bye.
Bye bye.